This audiobook of the Jena Congress of the German Social Democratic Workers' Party is an essay by Vladimir Lenin, which was written in 1905. Congresses of the German Social Democrats have long become events whose importance goes far beyond the confines of the German labor movement. The German social democratic movement ranks first in respect of organization, integrality and coherence, and the extent and rich content of its Marxist literature. It is natural that under such circumstances resolutions of the German Social Democratic Congresses also frequently acquire almost international significance. Such was the case with the question of the latest opportunist tendencies in socialism, Bernsteinism. The decision of the Dresden Social Democratic Congress, which confirmed the old and tested tactics of revolutionary social democracy, was adopted by the Amsterdam International Socialist Congress, and has now become the common decision of the whole class-conscious proletariat throughout the world. Such is now the case too. The question of a mass political strike, the main question at the Jena Congress, is agitating the entire international social democratic movement. It has been brought to the fore lately by events in a number of countries, including Russia, and even perhaps Russia in particular. The German Social Democrats' decision will undoubtedly exercise considerable influence on the entire international labor movement by giving support and strength to the revolutionary spirit of militant workers. However, let us first take brief note of the other and less important questions discussed and decided by the Jena Congress. First of all, it considered the question of party organization. We shall not of course dwell here on the details of the revision of the German party rules. It is important that the highly characteristic basic feature of this revision should be stressed, i.e., the tendency towards further, more comprehensive and stricter application of the principle of centralism, the establishment of a stronger organization. This tendency found expression, first, in the inclusion in the rules of a direct provision to the effect that every social democrat is obliged to belong to a party organization, with the exception of cases when this is precluded by very serious reasons. Secondly, it found expression in the institution of a system of social democratic local branches instead of the system of delegates, the replacement of the principle of one-man authority and confidence in an individual, by the principle of collective, organizational links. Thirdly, it expressed itself in a decision to the effect that all party organizations must contribute 25% of their revenue to the party's central treasury. On the whole, this obviously shows that the growth of the social democratic movement and of its revolutionary spirit necessarily, and inevitably leads to the more consistent establishment of centralism. In this respect, the development of the German social democratic movement is highly instructive to us Russians. Not so long ago, organizational questions occupied a disproportionate place among current problems of party life, and to some extent this holds true of the present as well. Since the Third Congress, two organizational tendencies in the party have become fully defined. One is towards consistent centralism and consistent extension of the democratic principle in party organizations, not for the sake of demagogy, or because it sounds good, but in order to put this into effect as social democracy's free field of activity extends in Russia. The other tendency is towards diffusiveness of organization, vagueness of organization, whose injuriousness is now understood even by Plekhanov, who defended it for such a long time. Let us hope that events will soon force him to understand likewise the connection between this vagueness of organization and vagueness of tactics. Recall the disputes about Clause 1 of our rules. The conference of the new Marxists, who had been previously fervently defending the idea underlying their mistaken formulation of this clause, now simply discarded all the clause and the idea as a whole. The Third Congress confirmed the principle of centralism and organizational ties. The new Marxists immediately attempted to put on a basis of general principles the question whether every party member must belong to an organization. We now see that the Germans, opportunists and revolutionaries alike, do not even question the legitimacy of such a requirement as a matter of principle. When they brought this requirement, that every party member must belong to a party organization, straight into their rules, they explained the need of exceptions to this rule, not by considerations of principle but by the absence of sufficient freedom in Germany. Vollmer, who at Jena delivered the report on the organizational question, justified toleration of exceptions to the rule on the ground that it would be impossible for such people, petty officials, to belong to the Social Democratic Party openly. It goes without saying that the situation in Russia is different. Since there is no freedom, all organizations are equally secret. Under conditions of revolutionary freedom, it is particularly important that parties be quite distinct from each other, and that no diffusiveness be permitted in this respect. However, the principle of the desirability of stronger organizational ties remains unshaken. As regards the delegate system, which the German Social Democrats have now discarded, its existence was due entirely to the exceptional law against the socialists. The farther this law receded into the past, the more natural and inevitable became the transition to a party system based on direct links between organizations, instead of on links through delegates. Another question that came up for discussion at Jena prior to the question of political strike is also highly instructive for Russia. This was the question of the May Day celebrations, or, to be more exact, to take the gist of the matter and not the item that gave rise to the discussion, the question of the relation of the trade union movement to the Social Democratic Party. Proletary has spoken several times about the profound impression made on German Social Democrats, and not only on them alone, by the Cologne Trade Union Congress. It became more than evident at this Congress that even in Germany, where the traditions of Marxism and its influence are strongest, anti-socialist tendencies towards pure trade unionism of the British, i.e., absolutely bourgeois type, are developing in the trade unions, mark you, social democratic trade unions. That is why from the question of a May Day demonstration in its literal sense, there inevitably arose at the Jena Congress the question of trade unionism and social democracy, the question of economism, to speak in terms of trends within the Russian social democratic movement. Fischer, who delivered the report on the question of May Day, frankly stated that it would be a bad mistake to ignore the fact that in the trade unions the socialist spirit is disappearing now here, now there. Things had gone so far that, for instance, Bringmann, representative of the Carpenters' Union, had uttered and published statements like the following: "The strike on May Day is like a foreign body in the human body. In the given circumstances, the trade unions are the sole means for improving the condition of the workers, etc., and these symptoms of disease, as Fischer aptly termed them, are being supplemented by a number of others. In Germany, as in Russia and indeed everywhere, a narrow trade unionism, or economism, is linking up with opportunism, revisionism." The newspaper published by this same Carpenters' Union wrote about the crumbling foundations of scientific socialism, the erroneousness of the theory of crises, the theory of collapse, etc. The revisionist Kulwer did not call on the workers to show discontent or increase their demands, but to be modest, etc., etc. Liebknecht met with approval from the Congress when he spoke against the idea of the trade union's neutrality, and remarked that Bebel, it is true, also spoke in favor of neutrality, but, in my opinion, this is one of the few points on which Bebel does not have the backing of the majority of the party. Bebel himself denied that he had advised the trade unions to be neutral with regard to the social democratic movement. Bebel fully recognized the danger of narrow trade unionism. He went on to say that he knew even worse examples of this craft union apathy. Young trade union leaders go so far as to jeer at the party in general, at socialism in general, at the theory of the class struggle. These statements of Bebel's evoked general indignation at the Social Democratic Congress. There was loud applause when he resolutely declared, "Comrades, be on your guard, think of what you are doing, you are traveling a fatal path, which in the end will lead to your doom." It thus stands to the credit of the German Social Democratic movement that it faced the danger squarely. It did not gloss over the extremes of economism, or invent lame excuses and subterfuges, such as were so abundantly invented by Plekhanov, for instance, after the Second Congress. No, it bluntly named the disease, resolutely condemned the injurious tendencies, and straightforwardly and openly called on all party members to combat them. This is instructive to Russian Social Democrats, some of whom have earned the praise of Mr. Struve for having begun to see the light on the question of the trade union movement. Remember to like and subscribe for more Marxist audiobooks and videos, and leave your thoughts in the comments.